Hi, I'm Kevin O'Connor, and welcome back to Ask This Old House, where we'll go anywhere to answer your home improvement questions. It's time to clean up the yard.
And I have some equipment to make the job go faster. You want to see power? This is a 10 horsepower blower. Stand back and watch.
Today, we're going to cover this basement floor with carpet to make a nice playroom.
And I'll show you some new technology that'll keep you comfortable and do much more.
Kevin, whether it's spring or fall, yard cleanup is a must. Today it's fall, and if you look, if these leaves are left matted on the lawn, they could kill the lawn. And in some cases, these leaves can actually carry disease spore, which will come out next year.
So our job is to clean them up, and the easiest way to do that is with a rake.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorites. This is a small plastic rake for going in and around shrubs, and this is a big plastic rake for really moving leaves.
See, now that's funny. You prefer the plastic one. I like the metal spring ones. It's got a spring right here, so there's some tension on these metal tines.
Yep.
And I like that resistance, because when I'm down there, it picks up the thatch as well as the leaves.
Well, I'm into production, and this one's twice the size of that, so I can really move some leaves around. The other thing I find is sometimes that spring rake of yours gets all clogged up with leaves.
Ah, come on. If you got any leaves in there, you just give it the flip, the drag, and you're ready to go.
Well, once we get them into a pile, then we have to talk about how we move them. Kevin, I love to see people compost their leaves. Now, there's a couple of ways to get the leaves to the compost area. Number one is you can fill this collapsible basket, take and load that up, and bring it right over to the pile.
Yep.
That takes a little effort.
And it's not that big, but it'll do for a small pile.
Right. For myself, I prefer to just take the leaves and rake them over to the top. Now, you can really get a lot of leaves on the top. And once you do, you simply pick up a corner and take and drag it. There you go. See how easy they are to move?
Piece of cake.
Now, if you don't have an area to compost the leaves, you got to bring them out for the town to collect.
Right, and we want to make sure that we use a paper bag for that, because if you put the leaves in a plastic bag, that goes to the landfill, this goes to the compost pile.
Right. And when you're using a bag, anything that'll help you hold that bag sturdy is a big advantage. So a cardboard collar like this will just help you hold it up. You can just take and fill it up with leaves. And take and get it one more. All right, now with the bag full, we'll just pull the collar right out. Ready to go out to the curb.
There are also a bunch of power tools that can help you with some leaves, and there are basically two types. So the ones that blow the leaves and ones that will vacuum the leaves. Now here's a small handheld one. It's electric, so it's quiet. And actually, this is kind of unique. It blows and it vacuums with an attachment.
Good for a small yacht,
Right.
But limited by the cord.
Yep, we got to drag that
Now,
around.
we're all familiar with gas-powered handheld and backpack blowers. This is a new one. Take a look at this. This is a propane-powered blower. So it's going to be quieter with less emissions. Now, I'm going to start it up, but I got to put the hearing protection on.
Not too bad, Roger. It's got some power,
Yeah.
but I'd say you're not messing around with a thing like this.
No, you want to see power? This is a 10 horsepower blower. This is what the commercial guys use all the time, but if a homeowner had a large yard, they can actually rent one of these.
So this is the biggest you can get.
Stand back and watch.
Well, a rake or a blower is still just going to push the leaves around, and you still have to deal with them.
Right. Sometimes it's easier to pick them up on the lawn and not rake them at all. And that's where this sweeper comes in handy. It has two brooms in the front of it that turn when you push it.
Yep.
So once you get started, it just goes around. It actually kicks the leaves up in.
And it's a very simple contraption, affordable too. This one goes for about $150. The only problem is that this hopper is going to fill up quickly, and you're making a lot of trips to the mulch pile.
That's true. And that's when power comes into play. Here we have a power vacuum. It has a gas engine that powers the vacuum on the front here. It sucks the leaves up into a steel impeller where they get crushed up and then back to this bag. Now, crushing them up is great because you can get more in a bag, but it's also better for when you go to compost.
So we vacuum, we mulch, and we bag all in one step.
Right, and then when you go over to the pile, you simply unzip the bag in the back, tip down, dump the leaves out, zip it up, and you're ready to go back to work again.
Let's fire this thing up. Roger, you pulled all the stops out with this thing. You need a license to operate this?
No, but you need a big yard and a riding lawnmower. This unit actually attaches to the riding lawnmower.
So the leaves get picked up initially by the riding lawnmower, those blades that pick them up and mulch them?
Right, they start sending it up this tube, then it goes into this impeller, grinds them up again, and blows them up to this large capacity hopper.
It's a huge hopper.
Now, you remember those bags we raked earlier?
Yeah.
This grinds up 10 bags and reduces it to the size of 1 bag. So just imagine how many leaves we can put in here.
I don't want to imagine, Roger. I want to see. Fire it up.
Okay.
Once your hopper's full, you just back it up to the compost pile. There is a back panel here, which I will loosen, and then I'm just going to pop this off, Roger.
All right, get out of the way. I'm going to dump it.
Okay.
Look at all those ground up leaves.
Yeah, that is nice. You know what, Roger? Maybe I'm not a spring rake guy after all.
There was a time when just about every home in America had a thermostat that looked like this. It's a very simple device that hung off the wall, and remarkably, there are still a lot of them in use today. But in terms of where we are with heating and cooling systems, this guy is a dinosaur.
This guy only had one job, to sense temperature and turn the heating system on or off. But it was the greatest invention of its day, because before it, you had to go down to the basement and shovel coal or throw wood in.
You were the thermostat.
That's right. My grandfather was. So now these basic thermostats worked on a simple principle. Inside there was this bimetallic coil that would expand and contract with temperature. You can see this bulb right here, and there's mercury in here. So this would make the contact, and as the coil moved, watch what happened. It would break the contact.
Right. And there are wires attached to this bulb which go through the wall and down into the basement to the heating plant.
Right. You'd always have two wires, normally red and white, and that comes out from the furnace of the boiler to the thermostat.
Right.
Now, as fuel got more expensive, people wanted to add a clock thermostat.
So that they can program and say the heat comes on at 6 a.m., but make sure it goes off at 10 p.m.
That's right, to be able to save some energy. So you can see the clock right here. In this case, there's 2 mercury bulbs and 2 of those coils, and it would give you a reduced temperature or an active temperature. And this is a battery right here to power the clock.
A pretty good invention in its day.
Right. So nowadays, there's no more mercury, so this should always be disposed of properly if you're throwing them out to change to a new thermostat.
Okay, make sure you recycle those.
So here's the basic thermistor style right now that says yes or no. You can use that same thermostat for heating or cooling, all right? But most of the thermostats nowadays we find are digital, and so they have a readout to tell you what the temperature is.
Right. Now, all of these that we're looking at here on the wall, they still have a wire going down to the basement.
They have to have at least 2 wires to send a signal. If it's going to do heating and cooling, you'd need to have 5 wires.
Right.
Now, you also would use these 5 wires if you wanted to add power to the digital thermostat instead of using batteries.
Right, to run the clock, the
That's
digital
right.
readout.
Okay.
They all have a wire, but there are actually some wireless versions of these.
Absolutely. People want to add a thermostat and zone a building differently. This is a wireless thermostat that would send a signal back to a unit like this down in the basement, and this is battery powered.
And that's using a radio frequency. It's really no more sophisticated than your garage door opener.
That's right. That's right. Now, there's a whole new generation of Wi-Fi enabled thermostats. That's going to work off a router in the house and talk out to the web, which means you can take data from away, get local weather, but you can also access it from away from your smartphone. So here's a basic unit right here that you could set temperatures in the house. You could move the temperatures up or down using your smartphone, and you control some multiple zoning. Now, this is a Wi-Fi enabled thermostat, but I'm almost afraid to call it just a thermostat because as we move through here, they almost become home automation systems. Here's a unit. It'll give you the same temperature readout, all the Wi-Fi enabled, but it also can do zoning with individual zone controls right here. It can do sensors in different parts of the building to know what's going on.
Right.
But it also can be a lighting control. This can plug into a 110-volt outlet, and now the lights could be controlled remotely and on timers.
So it's being controlled by this unit or maybe by the phone that's in your
That's
pocket.
right. This also ties into a system that can let you remotely open or close a door, unlock a door, so you could let the plumber in.
Or not let them in your case.
Another system has the same Wi-Fi enabled, but it also has these 2 clamps. And these 2 clamps would go onto the hot bus bars in your electrical circuit panel. And this will tell you what you're using for electricity, how much it's costing you, and what devices are costing you what.
Wow. So we've really come a long way. I mean, we've got not only heating and cooling control, home automation, but now we have energy monitoring.
It's really an exciting time to be in this game.
It's great. Thank you. Tommy, we have a pretty typical situation on our hands. The homeowners would love to turn their basement into a playroom, but it's got a concrete floor, so it's a little cold and a little hard.
Right.
But they do want to end up with carpet, so I thought we'd put down some tiles.
Yeah, these are nice carpet tiles. They go down nice and easy. But this is a basement. It's below grade. One thing that I'm always concerned about is moisture. Concrete is porous, and you always worry about moisture coming up from the slab. So what we've done is one over there.
So you've got a piece of plastic that you taped to the floor? Is that what's going on?
Sealed it down nice and tight. And what I'm looking for, any water that should collect underneath this piece of plastic. If it collects, then that tells me that there's moisture coming up through and we need to install a vapor barrier.
And so what's the test here? What's the conclusion?
Well, both tests show that it's dry, so we don't need to have a vapor barrier.
Now, if we did need a vapor barrier, how would you achieve that?
Well, I would use big sheets of plastic, polyethylene, and I would put them down, overlapping the joints and sealing them so no moisture can get up through and into the floor.
Okay, well, we don't need it, so we're off to the first step.
We're going to start the subfloor. So this is what we're using for the underlayment. It's basically a half-inch thick sheet of ground-up paper.
Paper for a subfloor.
Right. Well, cellulose, it's a good insulator. So, all right, so we want to create a thermal break over this floor. But this is tough stuff.
Yeah, a little softer than a wood subfloor, too, though, so maybe a little bit of cushion underneath the carpet?
So it's a good pad for under the carpet. Now, these sheets are 4 by 4, all right? So to get started, though, we need to snap a line across the room to get a straight line. Now, the sheets are 4 by 4, so we want to measure off the wall 48 3/8 to allow for any expansion. Put a mark on each side of the room, take a chalk line, and snap a line.
Okay.
We're going to glue our underlayment to the concrete floor using an adhesive. Now, this adhesive is low VOCs.
So a lot less solvents, which means we're not going to get all those fumes, but it shouldn't affect the performance?
Not at all. Now we're going to run the adhesive in a pattern that the manufacturer recommends us doing, and that's all the way around the perimeter. Then we're going to make an X going from corner to corner. And then we're going to fill in between the triangles.
You're like a pastry chef, Tom.
Yeah, good cake decorator. Stick it in the corner, and then we'll just lay it right down. All right, put it right on that line. Now we have a gap that runs down this wall and another one on that wall. We'll just step on it. All right, we'll give it a few seconds to grab. All right, now we'll put the second sheet down, placing it on the line, creating our gap against the outside wall. Now we also want to make sure that we have a gap between the two sheets, about 1/8 of an inch. How's it look?
It's good on the front. Let me get it in the back. Looks pretty good.
And I'm on the line. All right, now to keep the sheet down until the glue sets, we're going to lay a couple of concrete blocks on there. That'll hold it down. All right, now we have to measure to cut this one right here.
So the floor is a little irregular. We're just going to find everything we can to weigh those down.
Right. Now we're ready for our next row. And I don't want to line all of these joints up across the room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our leftover piece from our first piece that we cut, and we're going to start right over here. I cut it for size and notch around the lally comb.
Nice fit.
Once in a while you get lucky. If you notice on the underside of the sheet, there's these 4-inch by 4-inch squares with a saw cut about 1/8 of an inch deep. That's called a kerf cut. And that kerf actually releases some of the tension on the underside of the sheet so it will lay flatter on the floor. Okay, that's the last piece.
The carpet we're using comes in tiles, and they're about 19 3/4 inches square. They have a pattern on them, and the back is actually rubber, so this is going to grab and not slide. And because we're working with tiles, Tommy, you got an idea about the layout.
Well, normally when you're doing tile in a room, you find the center of the room in 2 directions, this way and this way. You then snap a chalk line in both directions. You check the center where they meet to see if it's square. If it's square, you can then build your tile off of that system. But this is a room that is really out of square. a lot of jogs. We only have one thing in the room that we can build off of, and that's the fireplace.
So we're going to have every tile be parallel to the front of this fireplace. And in fact, you've laid out one on the right side, one on the left side, and then we've got this entire row of tiles laid out right in front of those.
Right. What we're looking for is the seam of the tile and the seam of our underlayment. We do not want them to line up.
We don't want any of those to overlap, and with this row laid out, we can walk over it, and we can see that there is no overlap of the seams. So that's good.
So this row is good. So now we wanted to check the seams of our underlayment and the seams of our tile in this direction, so we ran another row, and we checked. None of the seams line up.
So we don't have any overlap of seams in this direction or this direction, so now this is our grid that we can build off of.
And we can start laying our tile right here.
We don't actually stick the tiles to the floor, we stick them to each other. They come with these stickers, which we peel off, and then we have sticky side facing up, which we actually put underneath the four corners of the tiles, and that'll hold the tiles together, and then the whole carpet floor floats on the substrate.
Now I'm ready to cut a tile to go around this post right here. So the first thing I need to do is mark the tile so I can cut a hole in it. To do that, first thing I want to do is make sure that the tile is positioned in the right direction that I want it to go. I then take the tile and slide it right over, putting it directly on the tile that I've already laid in place, making sure that it's even with the tile below. I then take another tile, I lay it on top, slide it over until it hits the post. I want to make sure that it's lined up also. And now I'm going to eyeball the center of the post, and I'm going to come right across the tile like here, take my utility knife, and go right through the tile below. Okay, now I'm going to remove that tile. Now this mark represents this side of the post. Now I have to find this side of the post. I'm going to take my tile, position it on top of this tile right here that's already in place, making sure that it's lined up. Take another tile, lay it on top, line it up, touch the post, and cut right through it again, centering it on the post. Okay, now I take my tile and I turn it over. Now I have two marks. This mark right here represents this side of the post. This mark right here represents this side of the post. Now what I've done is I've set my compass half the diameter of the post. Now I'm going to put my compass on the reference line. I'm going to put a little mark. Put it on the other reference line, put a little mark. I'm going to take my compass and put it on that mark in the center. Check it to make sure that I'm on my cut, which I am. Check it over here to see if I'm on my mark there. Now I'm going to swing my circle. All right, now that my circle is marked, I'm ready to cut the hole. First thing I want to do is I want to put a piece of cardboard underneath because I don't want to cut the carpet below. I'm going to cut on my line. With the hole cut in the tile, I now need to get the tile around the post. To do that, I'm going to put a slice in the carpet, but I want to follow the pattern of it. So I'm going to use my straight edge, lay it on one of the lines of the pad, and then take my knife and slice it right through it. Take the tile, put it around the post, line it up.
Okay, Tommy, last tile in place.
And it looks good, and I really like this checkerboard pattern. All we did is alternate the direction of each tile.
So a couple hours ago, we had ourselves a cold, hard concrete floor.
Not anymore.
Now we've got ourselves a beautiful playroom. Boy, what a difference.
Now this underlayment is cellulose, almost a paper, and basements can take on water. What happens if it gets wet?
Well, if your basement floods, whether you're using this for an underlayment or plywood for an underlayment, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have to replace it.
I suppose you're right.
And that's the nice thing about using carpet tiles. If you do take on water and you've got an affected area, you can just pull up those affected carpet tiles. You can clean them or replace them, but you can also get access to the underlayment and just replace one piece.
That's right. If you have wall-to-wall carpet, you can't just cut out one little section. You're going to have to pull the whole thing out.
It was really quite a transformation down there, I got to tell you.
All right, well, if you've got questions about your house, we'd love to hear from you. So until next time, I'm Kevin O'Connor.
I'm Roger Cook.
I'm Richard Thuy.
And I'm Tom Silver.
For Ask This Old House.
Nice job, guys.
Yeah, Tommy, it was good working with you. I know you couldn't have done without me.
Thanks for the tip on how to cut around that alley.
I'm in it for you. Next time. Welcome back to Ask This Old House, where we'll go anywhere to answer your home improvement questions.
These trees might be green, but they're not healthy. We'll show you how to save them.
I'm heading to Canada to help a homeowner hook up the plumbing to his kitchen island.
And I'll show you some features to look for in a workbench.
That's next time. Ask This Old House.
If you have a question about your house or a tip you'd like to share, please let us know. Visit our website, pbs.org, for expert advice, step-by-step videos, and much more. This Old House magazine, the companion to the television series, provides advice from our experts that you've come to know. You can use your credit card to order 10 monthly issues for $10 by calling 1-800-221-5900.